All right. How's everybody doing? How is everybody doing? Do we have any submissions yet? Let's see. We have one submission here. Okay. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. All right. All right. This guy's comment. All right. Fang adjacent level companies, preferably as infra engineer. Infra backend. Okay, let's take a look at what you got. Alberta. Don't need that. BlackBerry. What is this? Tell us BlackBerry. Okay, very Alberta-esque. Very Alberta-esque. Okay. Split that. A lot of shit there. Okay. Cutting me responsible. Okay. How long are you here for? Okay, only 3 months. Okay, that's just fine for 3 months. That's fine for 3 months. Okay. Uh, this is interesting. There's a lot of lifting being done with the word design here. Designed test. Like, what is like? Is this not just running unit tests? Like, what does this mean? Sure. Filling process. Okay. I think this is probably better represented as a percent. Uh, kind of latency, Vita's caching latency. I can believe that. I can believe that. Okay, Delphi. That's very common. A refactored. Okay. 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 I mean, it's pretty standard stuff. Nothing really stands out here. It's not bad. It's not bad, to be clear. It's normal. Normal resume. I would say there's two things you could probably do to improve the chances here. I mean, first thing is I would say the resume. It's got a lot of stuff on it. It's got the information you need. I would say honestly, if you're just if you're like a couple things that are missing here that I think is actual coding skill. Now this is something which I usually don't comment on because people are usually pretty good at that, but it's a bit like the only like there's a couple things here that obviously are here. I would say it's a bit light. So for example, this is a refactoring. This is not clear what was actually coded. This is mostly this is containerization. I don't know how much coding actually happened over here. Over here, there does seem to be some sort of coding. But like you can pick like this is like for example, this is not coding. This is unit tests, which I would just get rid of to be honest. Um, this is unclear what was actually done here. I mean, I think it's missing the piece which is saying from what implemented WebSockets from what like onto like a fresh like on a fresh project. This is backporting it to WebSockets. What I'm getting at is that there seems to be a lot of technologies here, a lot of DevOps especially, but not much coding. I would say if you could rephrase some of these things or kind of highlight what the skills over there, I think that'd be really good. Um, I would also say there's probably too much bullshit over here. Not that it's a bad thing, but this is just okay. Okay, if you're doing this just for the ATS, okay, no comment. ATS is fine. Um, if you're if you're just going for ATS, this is fine. If you're going for readability, there's a lot of stuff here that people like you got to group it a bit better, right? Like I would not put Azure in the same category as PyTest, for example. Resumes for infra, that's fine for infra. I would say it's still very DevOps focused and not enough design. I would say if you could talk a little bit more about how you weighed or compared or investigated alternatives, I think that would be a really good, a really good point to put on. But I mean, yeah, then there's a lot of infra skill here, so I think that's fine. But just be aware that if you're going for inter, what was your comment? Was it inter or new grad? Didn't say. What did you say? New grad 2025. Yeah, if you go from new grad, I think what we would need to see here is, like I said, a bit more coding, a bit more design comparison, evaluation. I think otherwise you're on the right track. All right. What is this? What is this? What is this? Looking for internships and later on new grad. No information though. Okay. Okay, so a couple things off the bat here that I'm not quite seeing. Um, I think the overall theme of this resume is that yeah, it's got some stuff on it. That's good. That's a good start. Um, one thing that I've seen is some things are a bit ambiguous, and when things are ambiguous, people will assume that you're making it ambiguous on purpose to make it seem like you have an outsized contribution. I'd say generally speaking, you want to be precise with your contribution, especially if it's within a group or within a team. You want to be as precise as possible. An example here, I mean, this is an obvious one. For example, you helped build. So like, what did you do specifically, right? Like, did you design it? Did you implement it? Did you take it to the data scientist? Like, there's a lot of things that you can do to help build something. We want to be precise here, right? We want to be precise. Developed is a better verb for this purpose. I would say that makes a lot more sense. This makes sense, like automated retrieval via this. This is very specific. This makes sense what you were doing. This is a bit vague, right? So I would clarify that kind of stuff. This is another one over here. It's not really clear what's going on. I would say in general, again, now this is about the data. You know, the transaction dollar amount is not influenced by your skill, right? If you were a significantly better programmer, would this number increase? It probably would not increase, because this number is independent of your ability to implement this thing over here. So I would say this is not the right metric to kind of gauge that. Instead, I would use a metric to talk about, you know, things that advocate for your skill. Like, for example, if you're talking about building an admin panel for admin panel and trucking out to manage orders, talk about what was the business use case, like what was the demand that you fulfilled, right? That could be more interesting than, for example, talking about the end product being some amount of money. This makes sense. This makes sense. These are fine. This is a bit weird. Like, for example, this thing, the first point should be a bit more descriptive about what you're trying to accomplish. Creating an AI tool is very vague. I would say you need to be specific about what sort of AI tool. For example, is this a retrieval AI? Is this a generative AI? Is this an analysis AI? Or is this an AI plugin that plugs into QuickBooks or something that does some DevOps? You know, okay, QuickBooks doesn't make sense here. I think I saw QuickBooks below over here, which is cool. Right, so I would be more specific about what this AI tool really is, okay? I think talking about extensions makes sense. I think talking about extensions makes sense. However, I think you could be a bit more specific about what, you know, what you did. And also, I know over here, I'm not sure these are related or not. Like, these points are related. I would say if they're not related, you should be more clear about what the outcome was, right? So like, how many tickets did you analyze? What's the accuracy? That kind of stuff. I think that's a key part that's missing here. Especially that's going to be your first point. This is fun. This is whatever. Okay, let's take a look here. This is whatever. This is whatever. Yeah, I'd say in general, like, in general, you seem to be on the right track. There does seem to be, I'd say for this sort of resume, there probably is more room for, like, selectively picking projects, right? And what I mean by that is, like, look, like, this is a good start. There's a lot more you can add on to this, right? So for example, you did not talk about what industry you're targeting, but let's start talking about like AI or ML, right? Then let's talk about adding an AI ML feature to this, right? Keep one project on, but just continuously build upon it, right? Otherwise, what people are gonna think is like, hey, this product is 2 years old. It's 2 years old. You haven't done anything in 2 years. Everything has just been work, which is fine. But if you don't have the right point to talk about for your work experience, it's not gonna help. So I'd say, you know, if like AI, let's look at like AI over here, put some AI stuff over here. If you like DevOps, you know, let's talk about deployment, right? Like, so there's a lot of different things you can target based on your current projects. That would be something I would look into improving further. Also, you should probably put Azure over here. All right, next. is that number? That is a fake phone number. All right, that's fine. All right. All right, all right. This person's comment: want to go for full stack software engineer? Okay. I should probably mandate like a minimum 50-word category for that. Otherwise, it's pretty worthless, isn't it? Okay, let's take a look. Okay. Where is this? Oh, this is American. This guy's from America. This guy's from America. Okay. A lot of courses listed here. Most of these are worthless. Let me see. Let me see. Okay, let me see what experience you have and then I'll comment on that. That's a lot of databases. All right. That's a. Okay, give plus mentor. Okay. Startup. This is current. This is recent. That's right before that. That's right before that. So you've been working for basically. You will be working for basically 2 years straight, right? Okay. Let's take a look. I'd say overall too much bolding. I think I will cut the bolding in half. Okay. That's lowercase p. 98% extraction accuracy for software technology. Okay, maybe that's okay. 98% sounds pretty low for extraction though. Maybe it's fine. I mean, you're going for full stack development. This thing is completely worthless anyways. It's fine. Doesn't matter. Scalable, blah blah. That's fine. Okay. Boosted checkout from by 80% on taking on active users. You don't need to say that. E-commerce platform. Don't need to say that. Server-side rendering. You could just say SSR or get. You could pick one of the two. You're sketching. Okay. So this point doesn't make sense to me. As someone who's worked in this kind of field, shipping server-side rendering would not boost your checkout conversion by 18%. That just won't happen. If you're gonna make this sort of claim, you better have something to back it up. Like those are just two unrelated things. Like unless people are doing stuff like sneaker drops or like Pokemon card shit, like people will not care if your website takes 2 seconds extra to load, right? That is just not a metric. I don't believe this. I think you need to justify this more. Optimize spam by 20% quarter-over-quarter. Migrate EC2 seamless serverless to serverless and spot instances. I would say this needs a bit more quantification as well. Generally speaking, using EC2 instances is cheaper than serverless, like Lambda in this case, and is definitely cheaper than spot price for EC2. So I feel like this is backwards. So I feel this is incorrect. Like this is just incorrect. I think you need to be more specific about, if this actually was the case, you have to be more specific about how you were using EC2 in the first place. Because contrary to popular belief, EC2 is actually very cheap per compute performance compared to Lambda. Enhanced first contentful paint, lazy loading, but okay, that I can believe. Okay, startup, blah 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 blah. What is this? Why is meta over here? What's that mean? Tattoo artists. Okay. Reduce API latency. Vlog free reads. Postgres between nexus. Reduce API latency. I can believe that. Accelerated deployment cadence. Doesn't really matter. Blah blah. Okay. Lower. Okay, this is fine. I can. That's fine. Sentry is good to put in. Architected multi-tenant clouds. Architected multi-tenant cloud service backed on Postgres with row-level security fibrous authentication. Okay. So these are past tense, and you have been here for let me check, 28 days, right? So be careful. Engineer RESTful API certainty. Okay. I would say the only reason this is believable, to be honest, in terms of doing this in 28 days, is because you're using Firebase, you're using Supabase. If it was like a more traditional architecture or a more sensitive one, this would be definitely under question. But if you're using the Firebase Supabase, yeah, I could believe that if you're a very high performing individual. I would say also, okay, so after saying this, okay, the coursework, everything here is completely worthless. If you're dead set on going to machine learning, which you aren't because you said you're going full stack, there's an argument to keep these two over here. Otherwise, everything else is like a show don't tell moment, right? Show don't tell. I think that would be, I think that would do a lot better. All right, try to pass ATS with a bunch of things in skill section. I can believe that. This is fine. I mean, look, it's also the case where, okay, you're from Vietnam, you're doing some stuff, you're currently third year, not even third, like second, third year. Like you just like the level of depth that you would have for this sort of stuff is very low, especially when I see points like, for example, this one. I see points like the AWS point. If I see this kind of stuff, I immediately know what level you're going to be at. So after seeing that, yeah, like a recruiter will understand that these are just for keywords, right? So I don't think that's a problem. I think keep these things on. I think that's totally fine. Not a big deal, to be honest. I mean, look, it's a good resume overall, but I think there's too much embellishment going on. I think for someone who's actually technical and understand what's going on, this wouldn't like that would be a bit negative. But for recruiters, yeah, that looked pretty good. Code recursively. Hello, sir. Can you review my resume if I share that in chat drive link? I don't know how to say this more clearly, but you need to click the link and you need to fill it out. That's how this works. I don't know how to be more clear than that. Sorry, but let's see who's next. Oh, that's all we have for right now. All right, as per usual, I'll give people like 5 minutes to submit, and then after that, nothing else. I'm gonna get out of here. All right, where's my? Back in 1325. Do you do much hiring? I am involved in hiring processes. I'm an interviewer. I review resumes, but I don't. Obviously, I don't have a single veto. I actually have a veto vote, but I don't like single-handedly decide if someone gets hired or not. How many of the resumes are actually that bad when you receive applications? How many? Very little, but that's not because bad people don't submit the resume. It's because those are filtered out, right? So by the time a resume lands on my desk, it's already past many people. It's already like, oh, this is good. We want to hire this person. What interview should we give them? So obviously there's a lot of selection bias there, right? So you got to keep that in mind. But yeah, by the time I see a resume, they're all very good. They're all very competitive. And also, I don't really do intern hiring. I usually do like industry hires, so like seniors, kind of senior level resumes and stuff. And the truth is, once you actually have real experience, the resume doesn't matter like basically at all. It's the actual like experience that matters, right? So most of the time, the resumes, I'll tell you right now, they look like in terms of looks, they look far worse than any of the 3 you've seen today. Okay, they look far worse. But obviously that does not matter. We're not paying people to write resumes. We're paying people to write good code and to make good systems and to make good business decisions, right? So I'll need to just read the resume, I read what's going on, and then you can very quickly understand what level somebody's at based on what they think is important to put on, right? Because you gotta understand when you're at a more senior level, those people, they know what's important. They know why we're hiring. They understand the intricacies here, right? Like, you know what I mean? So they're not putting stuff like helped build, they're not putting that kind of wording on, right? I would say in general, you got to be very you got to take that kind of advice with a grain of salt, because right, I'm gearing my advice right here for the intern crowd, for the new grad crowd. Obviously, when I'm in my workplace, I'm doing something very different, right? So I'll answer the question, but I don't think the answer to the question is very helpful, to be honest. For the first bullet points, do you think SSR will not boost 80% checkout? That is correct. I do not believe that. I do not believe that improving the performance of a website through using server-side rendering will increase the checkout conversion rate. And the only caveat is if the checkout performance is actually critical. So for example, if you're buying GPUs, if you're buying Pokemon cards, if you're buying sneakers or whatever's hot, if you buy something that's hot, then I can believe it. But if you're just doing regular stuff, like I don't think you said what you're doing, but if you're doing regular stuff, I do not believe that the performance benefits from server-side rendering will lead to any increase in checkout conversion. So I think if you are going to make that connection, you have to say something explicit, like, oh, for example, it was so bad that it was crashing before. Now it doesn't crash. Okay, then I can believe it, obviously, right? But if it's just SSR, I don't believe it. Sorry. Like, that might fool a recruiter, but someone who actually understands what's going on. Like, I've written a lot of Next.js apps for my personal stuff. Like, SSR will not make a difference. And I think this is more generally true for a lot of the stuff that technical people focus on, which is like, oh, I'm using server-side rendering, I'm using image compression, I'm using all these various cool things that are in the new React frameworks. Oh, I'm using the dynamic routes. Dude, in real life, nobody fucking cares, right? Nobody fucking cares. I think when you want to make a business connection to a technical claim, it either has to be abundantly obvious, or you have to just explicitly say, oh, it was really bad before because it was crashing, or because we would show people the wrong number, or it was really, or something was really bad, and then we fixed it through SSR, or we fixed it through compression, or we fixed it through routing, right? Like you have to be more specific or more explicit in that case. 2, what about this? Optimize Amazon Web Services spend by 32% quarter over quarter by migrating from EC2 to serverless and spot instances. Isn't that what we have? Isn't I don't understand your question. Isn't that literally what you have? Quarter migrating from. I mean, I said in the. I mean, you could do the replay. You can find out. I don't believe this. I'll give you a TLDR. You can go watch a replay for more info. EC2 is actually cheap. Lambda is actually expensive, right? Per compute. If you were to reduce spend, you wouldn't actually migrate from EC2 to Lambda or serverless, whatever you be. I mean, serverless almost certainly means Lambda at this level, right? Instead, what you would do is you would pay for a bigger EC2 instance and put more threads on it, like you would put more work on that single EC2 instance. Now, I'm not saying you should do that, to be clear. I think that's a bad pattern, but that is how you would actually save cost. Like, you would not, and also spot instances. Like, do you guys know what spot means? Spot means you pay the price on the spot, which means that there's no reserved instance, there's no reserved price. Spot instances are the most expensive on the spot because there's no guarantee of the price. So instead, to guarantee a low price, you would actually just reserve a EC2 instance of the correct size for like a year, or for how long you're doing things for, and you'd be guaranteed that price for the entire year, and it would always be available. So actually, this point I think is backwards, because EC2 is cheap, serverless and spot prices are expensive. What if we worked on a project, but because it's only an internship, the features we implemented aren't that impressive in reality? The fact of the matter is that everyone knows that, right? Like it doesn't really matter. Like, this is a kind of another truth. It doesn't really matter what you write. When I look at your resume, I look at your location, I look at the company, I look at your role, I kind of already know what's going on. Like, I don't even need to, if it was just that would be enough for me to filter people, basically, right? The truth is, when we read the bullet points, we're trying to find things that are exceptional. We're trying to find something like, oh, this person is breaking my preconceived notion of what it means to be over here. That's quite impressive. That's quite interesting. I'm going to follow up with that. I'm going to think a bit more about that. So don't worry about things being unimpressive. Most things are unimpressive. That's not news, right? But if it's unimpressive and you're trying to make it sound a bit more impressive, that could be dangerous, because when you get brought in to be asked to be questioned about that sort of stuff, you're not going to be meeting the mark there. So I'd say it's a bit of a balance. Like, you have to have a balance of the two. Now, regarding your second point, is it still not preferable to say help build project X? That is still not preferable, and that is because help to build is basically a completely worthless verb. Like, I look, I'm being a bit, obviously this is a bit like, clickbaity. It's not completely worthless, but you got to understand, if you weren't helping it, then what are you talking about, right? Like, obviously you help build it, otherwise there's nothing to talk about. So the question is not, should you say help build it or should you not say it? The question is, should you say help build X, or should you say specifically what you did? Because when you're specific about what you did, that communicates two things. First of all, that communicates to me that you're honest, like you're not trying to hide behind a vague verb. And second of all, that communicates that you actually know what you're doing, right? It might not be much, it might not be impressive, but you know what you're doing. that is worth something because that is very clear, right? Now, I'm not saying that will help you pass interviews necessarily, but I'm just saying that that makes it look a lot better. So I would, in general, and this is not just with the verb help build, but just in general, I would not hide behind vague or generic verbs just to make it sound like it wasn't unimpressive. So I would say I would say that's like a general policy that I would follow. A lot of people would actually go against me on that one. A lot of people would say you should embellish to the max. You should do this. You should do that. And I do admit, if you were to embellish, your chances of passing interviews would be higher, or sorry, passing the screens would be higher. But I don't think that would help your chances of passing an interview. And it doesn't matter if you pass every screen if you fail every interview, right? So I think the goal people put there might be a bit wrong. I think it's still better to be honest on that front. So if you're not from a top school or thing, you don't have a chance to get big companies. That is not true. Obviously, going to a good school, going to other big companies will help, but they won't help necessarily just because of the name. They'll help because those companies solve harder problems, which means that people working at companies that solve harder problems. They solve bigger problems, solve harder problems, and also a really big thing, which I think is underrated, is that the communication bar is higher. You need to be better at communicating, which is not given at a lot of other companies. I would say it definitely helps, but it's not necessarily, it's not required. Generally speaking, I would say you would have to actually, if you're at a smaller company or at a smaller school, you have to more deliberately and use more initiative on your front to look for the right projects, to look for the right classmates to team up with to do things, right? So the ball is more in your court, right? But if you're willing to put the effort in, if you have the same connections, because guess what? At the end of the day, all the learning material, all that's online, right? Anybody could go take MIT 6006, right? Course is free, it's online. But why don't most people take it? Is it because they're stupid? No, not necessarily. Because they just don't have the initiative to go do it, right? So it's not really about, it's not about access. It's about having the right people around you and doing the right things with your time and effort. Can I text you through Discord? You can't text me through directly because I don't have DMs enabled, but you can join the Discord server, which this stream is part of. And that would be the first link in the description. And in that server, there are many people like myself who will comment and talk to you about it, about these various things. So you can go there. As you said, you would just see a title company, 90%. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And that is also because people who don't have the right verbs or don't have the right experience won't make it past the screen, right? Like I was answering that question specifically about my experience, not necessarily the experience of other people, which is why I was careful to say, this might not be representative. So I was careful to say that. But yes, it is. But it is true. Most people will just look at the school name, they'll look at the company name, they'll look at how long you worked there, look at your title. That's that, because that truthfully does communicate 90% of somebody's skill. So then how would we give, introduce, and explain product we worked on to give a better context of what we did? That doesn't involve, well, I mean, like, what did you build? I mean, like, for example, you designed the framework. You designed, or let's say you implemented the front end. Like, let's say you built 6 pages in React, or let's say you built this and this and this, or let's say, you helped solve some performance bottlenecks and this and this. So like you can still be precise. So you should describe how you helped build something, and not just say you helped build something. Okay, I would say you would really have to kind of back up and be careful with the words you choose. I'm not saying don't talk about the project. You should still talk about the project. Just be precise about it. That's all. If we say build X page without introducing the project we're working on, wouldn't it not make sense? Well, that's why I'm saying the first point should generally be, what did you do? For example, look at this, right? This first point doesn't say help do this. It just said, okay, we're doing this CRM, SaaS, for tattoo artists, and we're doing, and then they have some like bullshit at the end. That's okay, right? Like the first point has the context, right? This already has all the context. I have all the context in my head. The context is they built some CRM for tattoo artists. That's all the context I need, right? And then we could talk about, for example, okay, what did you do? You reduced the API latency, blah 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 blah, by doing B tree indexes, by doing some performance profiling, right? That makes a lot of sense, right? So then they didn't just come out and say, oh, then we helped do this, we helped do that. No. Then it said, okay, we delivered this by reducing the API latency. We delivered this by accelerating development cadence, right? So, or deployment cadence. right? So you can still have the context by just. I know usually this. The first point should usually be the context. Should be what did you do? What is this thing? Right, and then a later point should talk about how you did that. So I would say if you follow that framework, it should be no problem for context. Can you roast a project? I can take a look. No code quant trading platform, some stuff. Okay. Launch a no code drag and drop for creating backtesting paper trading strategy for true element of blah 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 blah. I think you used didn't you already use rag over here? I thought you said rag. Yeah, so you said rag already. You could just say rag over here. You don't need to use that already. Real-time extraction of data, blah blah, tracing signals, orchestrated event-driven, blah 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 blah. Okay. So I'd say a couple things here. I mean, this is a pretty cool idea. Obviously, this is not meant to be. This is not marketable. This is just meant to be like a fun project. I think that's totally cool. That's very cool. In general, I would say if you're using this to showcase backend proficiency, I think you could probably talk a little bit more about backend considerations. So, for example, what are we doing why do we use this technology? You could talk about measuring, benchmarking, doing micro benchmarks or macro benchmarks about different architectures and deciding what is the best sub how do you minimize latency. I know here you said sub 30 ms. That seems reasonable. I've interviewed and passed interviews a lot of quant companies. I don't really like quant personally, but I can still comment on it. The first thing I'm going to tell you right here that's a bit questionable, and I've just seen this just off the bat. I'm just seeing that this person, this project is a bit weird. Is we have a quant thing, which is obviously very latency sensitive. Why are we using Node? Why is Node in this list? I think there's nothing wrong with Node. It's just that it's not the performance, performance characteristics that we're looking for. Okay, so I would say, if you're just doing this to showcase backend skill, general backend skill, yeah, good project. Two thumbs up for me. However, if you're trying to lean a bit more into the quant theme, I think the first question people want to ask is what do you mean you're using Node? This is just unacceptable. This is completely unacceptable. You can't use Node. You can't use Postgres. This is just too slow. It's just too slow, right? So I think, I think that's the perspective, right? General backend, great project. Quant specific, bit questionable. Not bad, but it's just a bit they might ask you oh, why do you decide to use Node? Why do you use Postgres? So just be prepared for that kind of stuff, okay? I'll get some water here. Hold up. Let me just quickly. I know we're over time right now, so I'm gonna just quickly check if there's anything else. Okay, there's one resume, so I'm gonna just review the resume real quick and then just call it here for today because we're a bit over time now. Okay, so, hi, I'm a final year B.Tech student from India, currently seeking software engineering developer opportunity to complete my third year studies, active work enhancing my skills. I would appreciate reviewing my resume, blah 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 blah. Okay, great. Okay. All right, so let me just quickly see this. A couple of things off the bat. Skills at the top. So this might be an Indian thing, right? So I'm not Indian. I can't help you with India-specific stuff. Excuse me. So I see him. So there's no experience. This is mostly just in school. What year do you say you're in? Complete my third year of studies. Okay, so we're running out of time here. All right, programming. Okay. In India, you probably want Java. You probably want Java ASAP on this thing. Okay. Front end, next view, chassis. Okay. Why is Mapbox here? That stuff's out of place. Backend, Node Express, Fast Firebase, but okay, blah blah blah. Okay, other skills, multi-tenant, okay. Some stuff over there. Oh yeah, oh that's out of 10 GPA? Interesting. Projects, multi-tenant digital okay, too much bolding. Too much bolding. It's 100 plus merchants, I don't know. Okay, it's like a pretty recent project. Okay. Sure. For a project, this is fine. This is fine. Mock prep designed for post session analytics. Okay, I can believe that. Okay, I can believe that. I can believe that. I can believe that. 50% user. Okay, okay. Uptime. I like uptime. I like seeing uptime. And user workflow enabling interview practice and tracking personal feedback. Blah blah blah. Okay. Okay. So this is a project, by the way. If they have a real resume, they're gonna click the link, and it better be good. Okay. Like from the resume, I can't tell too much how much of this is lip service versus actually functionality. But this is a product that's interesting enough that people would click into the link. All right. What's the directory? Okay. Okay. So I think in general, there's a lot of front end here. I think it would really benefit you to make a real backend. And by real backend, I mean a backend where you implement most of the components, right? So for example, you have Node, you have Express, Flask is okay, but between Node and Express, I would expect to have a project here that's basically purely Node and Express. Okay, so for example, stuff like this where it's like, okay, it's like Vercel hosted, you're using a Stripe backend. That's cool, but that doesn't really demonstrate backend skill. Over here you have a Firebase backend, also not really a real like Firebase is backend. Don't get me wrong, Firebase is backend. However, it does not take skill to use Firebase. Like it doesn't demonstrate backend skill. So I'd say it would help you to make a project that actually uses a backend, like for example Node and Express. I would consider a real backend. Alternatively, you could use Python and Flask. That makes sense too. You could also learn Java, right? Use Spring Boot, something like that. Like that could be good. I think that's probably what's missing. Like as a biggest gap I see is that there's no backend. There's no real backend here. Okay. So that's how I would do it next, improve it next. All right, I'm gonna wrap it up. I'm gonna just quickly speedrun the rest of the comments. We're already 10 minutes over time. Let's see, where are we? But roast your project. I did that already. I get your point, but I don't know what to use other than help build out, insinuating that I was single-handedly built the whole thing. I mean, you don't need to insinuate you built the whole thing. Like you could just say, contributed to. Like there's a lot of Oh, wait, are you actually asking for like verbs to use? Oh, I think I misunderstood your question. I mean, if you're just asking for verbs to use, there's a lot of different verbs you could use. I mean, depending on the project you're working on, you could look at other resumes that have similar projects, see what they use, or just use it as the source. Like honestly, okay, I think I misunderstood you. I don't think okay, if you're literally, sorry, I misunderstood you. If you're literally asking for what verbs to use, I mean, there's too many for me to list. Like, where do we start, right? I would say if you have a thematic point, like for example, let's say it's like you improve the performance, then there could be verbs like tuned or dive into performance metrics, dive into this. Like, there's a lot of like, especially for it, like this kind of thing. It really depends on the kind of point you have. There's not like a list of verbs I can just give you on the spot. I think there's a lot of verbs. I think there's actually there's a lot of websites that help with resume creation. I wouldn't don't pay for those, but like they have usually a lot of verbs that they recommend. So I would say start from there for just ideas for verbs. Nice. I just do it for backend, not for quant. Yeah, sounds good. When you see the person with referral, do you think they have a lot more chance to get into referral? So here's the thing. At big tech, there's two referrals. There's network referrals, which are worthless. And there are personal referrals, which are actually worth a lot. But generally speaking, when you do networking online and you give people, like people say, oh, I'll refer you, they actually are giving you a network referral. And that is because they don't know you. And if they give people personal referrals and they consistently fail the interview, it makes them look really bad, right? So for a network referral, it has no difference and just applying normally. For a personal referral, it does make a big difference because it basically guarantees that a human will see it. Now, that doesn't mean you pass the screen, right? A human still has to decide if you pass the screen or not. And that will mostly come down to whether or not you're actually good. Like if your resume is actually good, if your skills are actually good. If the excerpt that your referrer wrote for you is good, then then you can probably pass. But it does depend a lot, and most of the time, people are given a network referrals which are worthless. Do you think I should bold the resum? What is resum? I don't know what resum is. Are you the interviewer at Big Tech? Yes, I was an interviewer at Amazon. Now I'm an interviewer at Asana. I left Amazon a year and a half ago. Do you think you should bold the resume? No, you should. If anything, you should get rid of some bolds. I think you have too much bold. I literally just explained the difference between network and personal referral. Please rewind the video to watch. All right, everything else is just already answered, so I will end the resume review for today. See you guys next week.